stressing out about school, or maybe you're just wondering how, in general, can you take away the worry and anxiety and stress that you are feeling when you go to high school, regardless of the reason. Well, you are in luck because today in this video, I am sharing my best tips for freshmen and sophomore out there who are stressing about school and what you can do to eliminate the stress and the worry and to increase your joy at school. Hey, I'm Abby J. I'm a life coach, I'm a public speaker, and for the best channel on personal development, crushing it in school and your future career, be sure to hit that subscribe button in the corner to my channel, AJ Life Hacks. Now, don't get me wrong, high school can be so fun and exciting, but for a lot of those reasons that make it fun and exciting, it can be really stressful and there's a lot of pressure on you. And depending if you are focused on your grades or maybe your social, environment and your popularity, like those all cause stresses. And if you're like me, I was worried about both of them. And so don't worry, the tips that I'm going to share with you today, I've got 3 of them for you. I have coached teens across the nation and they have found that these tips help them to manage their worry and their stress when it comes to high school. So without further ado, let's just dive right into these tips that I have for you today. So my first tip for you is to get a planner. Yes, I mean like a pen and paper, like this one. This is what I'm currently using that I love, 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 and I'll be sure to link this planner and some other planners that I personally have used and love down in the description box below, because planners are the first tip for a reason. And there's also a reason your school gives you a planner more than likely. I remember every year getting a planner that was, from my high school. But you need to get a planner because not only can you put down what's going on in your month, but I like this one for so many reasons because it goes day by day. And I found that for high school students, you need a day-by-day planner because you are in charge of so many things. And that's where so much, I'd say like at least 50% of your stress with high school is remembering all that you have to do. You've got assignments and tests and, I almost said play dates. That's like elementary school. You got hangout sessions with your friends that you've got to go to. You've got, rehearsals and practice and games and all of these super fun and exciting things. But if you can't remember where to get the information about these events or about the assignment, then you are going to be stressing and panicking. So for a surefire way, like this tip, absolutely, you cannot skip it. You've got to get a planner. And I suggest one with, a pen and paper, good old fashioned, because when we put stuff on our phone, so many kids are like, oh, don't worry, Abby, I put stuff on my phone. Oh, really? I only regularly check my notes for my grocery list. All the other notes in there, I'll scroll through and be like, oh yeah, I wrote that down, in May or in last year, and we forget about it. When you carry a planner with you, you do not forget, and you can always just reference and go back and check. And it also helps you to regulate the most important things in your day. So much of the stress of high school is managing all the expectations put on you by your teachers and by your friends. And so you're able to look down and say, hey, I've got this English assignment that's due Friday, and if I don't want to, be freaking out and pulling all-nighter, I need to work a little bit on it today, and okay, that goes right in my planner. So I know that sounds so basic. I know that you've heard this step from me before, but get a planner. I am so serious about this one, and like I said, I'm gonna link my favorite ones down in the description for you down below. My second tip for you on eliminating the stress you are feeling about school is to eliminate the unnecessary expectations that you have for yourself in high school. What do I mean by that huge mouthful of a tip? I mean that when it comes to high school, every single one of us, every single teen I've ever talked to, myself included when I look back, we have expectations of ourselves. And in high school, we tend to set unrealistic expectations and also expectations that don't really matter, and we're killing ourselves to get to those expectations. So what is that? Well, I bet all of us really want to look and feel our best, right? But if you have the expectation that you're always going to look like a supermodel, that you're always going to be so glamorous and your hair is always going to be perfect and you're always going to wear the latest trends, well, you're probably going to, wreck your happiness in the process of hitting that goal. Not that you can't achieve that goal, but it's probably going to cost you so much stress, lack of sleep, lack of happiness, because you have this expectation that's just unnecessary and really unrealistic. Now, don't get me wrong on this tip. I'm all about looking your best and doing your best in school. I see this a lot with kids who say, you know what, I'm never gonna get less than an A, right? Well, I was one of those kids. That's how come I know how to coach those kids. I was one of those kids, and when I first experienced my first teacher who doesn't give A's, my world was shattered, and there were so many tears and late nights that I could have avoided had I just accepted that if I do my best and I try really hard as a student, and if I, don't do so well on a test, you know what, I'm gonna live, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna try to get my best grades because they do matter, but I'm not gonna pull all-nighters to get that 4.0, right? Or I'm not going to try to work so hard to please a teacher that maybe, is never gonna give me that A. There's some teachers out there like that. And so with high school, so much of the stress that you are experiencing right now is from unrealistic expectations of what your high school needs to be. And maybe that is that you feel like you always have to be hanging out with friends and you've got to be so popular and cool and do all these things. Take a serious look, sit down with yourself, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, are there some expectations that I have that aren't realistic or really aren't bringing me joy? There's some things that you should really work for, and yeah, they're going to be hard and they're going to be a lot of work, but they're going to pay off. I would argue that looking like a supermodel, stressing like crazy over your grades, trying to be Mr. or Mrs. Popular, that those are kind of unrealistic expectations. You definitely need to try your best, look your best, be your best, put your best forward, but don't slave over this unrealistic expectation that you've set for yourself. So take a moment, sit down, and think about if you have set yourself up for that. Now, I just recently did a video on this type of topic, this type of unnecessary things that we add to our life that don't have a lot of meaning. And so that talk, I called it Cutting Nonsense Out of Your Life, and I think it is so perfect to go with this tip. So that's gonna be linked for you down below, and please take a moment after this video to check it out, because it's a little different. It's not a tips video, it's a motivational one of a speech that I've given to a lot of high school students about getting the nonsense out of your life. And I think that this tip of, crazy expectations of what you think high school should be and nonsense of having things in your life that don't add value to you go hand in hand. So be sure to check that one out after this video. Now, my third and final tip for you is so vital to not only forgetting about stressing about school and all that extra worry and anxiety, but also increasing your happiness in school. And that is to have a life outside of school. Yeah, now you're probably sitting there thinking, well, yeah, of course I do. I've got lots of things that I do outside of school. Well, hear me out. This is more having that well-rounded perspective of what your life is. And I hate to burst this bubble, especially for you, those of you that are just starting high school, my freshmen and my sophomores, but high school is like this little bubble and you feel like it's the whole world and everything that matters to you and the whole world lives in this bubble. And it doesn't. High school ends eventually, and the things that maybe you thought were so important weren't. And so that's where this tip comes in, that you need to make sure that you have a life outside of high school and this well-rounded perspective of where things fall to you. So my suggestions on this one is to spend time with your family, building those lasting relationships, to read, this sounds a little weird, but to read biographies about other people and their successes and the things that they did in their life that came in adulthood, that came when they were hustling as a teenager. I have found that when people can open up their perspective from just the little bubble of high school of so-and-so didn't talk to me and now I'm not happy and he didn't ask me to the dance and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not trying to sound rude. I mean, it's very real and it's very all-encompassing. But when you can pull yourself back from that and be reminded through time with family, through, you know, being inspired by other people, being, having hobbies, like to go get a hobby outside of like what you're doing at school and to work on yourself. These are all things that are going to pull you out of that suction cup of like, oh, high school's the only thing that matters. And, you know, if this doesn't happen to me, or if this person doesn't talk to me, or if I don't make the team, my life is over. I promise you that if you'll take a step back, if you'll look at the perspective, if you'll focus on yourself and the things that are lasting, like your family, your talents, your ambitions, that you won't get sucked into that pool of stressing and worrying about school when you can take a step back and say, hey, you know, I'm gonna give this my best, and that's all I've gotta give because I've got other things that are more important to me. And so that is my last tip for you, and I really hope that you practice this one. And I hope that you can pause this video right now and think about something you are going to do to kind of pull yourself back from high school. Not that you aren't engaged, not that you aren't having the best time ever, but that you have something outside of high school that brings you a lot of joy. Maybe you're gonna go strengthen a relationship with one of your siblings or your mom and dad, cousins, aunts, you know, a dear friend that you've had for your whole life. Or maybe you're gonna figure out that new hobby that you wanted to start. So take a moment, pause this video, and while you have that pause, please leave a comment down below on what you are going to do. I love to hear what you're doing and what my videos have helped you think about. So leave a comment for me down below. Well, I hope after talking through these 3 tips, you have some solid and concrete ideas and actions that you can take to stop stressing so much about school. Now, I'm just gonna warn you right now, like, there are gonna be days when you are stressed and worried about school because maybe you've got a major AP test coming up. Maybe, you know, there's something really big and eventful happening to you. And that's to be expected. But these tips will take away that day-to-day, I don't want to go to school, I'm feeling so stressed, I'm zapping my own joy and happiness because I'm so worried type of stressing about school. So I hope you enjoyed these tips. I'm so grateful you'd stay to the end of my video. And please, I've got lots of other videos all about high school. I've got some on self-esteem, like I mentioned, my nonsense talk about getting nonsense out of your life. Also, like how to succeed in high school and how to set goals as a teenager. So I will be sure to link those up all around me over here to the side, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. So, Abby J out.